Hi, I'm Sophia Epley, a journalism student at the University of Georgia, and I'm covering the mayoral election for Athens Politics Nerd. Today, we'll hear from all 5 mayoral candidates: school board members Tim Denson and LaKeisha Gantt, Commissioner Dexter Fisher, Pastor Sharon Miller, and community advocate Mara Zúñiga. The first question goes to Tim Denson. Can you start by introducing yourself and then talking a little bit about why you are running for mayor?
Sure. Tim Denson, mayoral candidate here for Athens-Clarke County. And I'm running for mayor because Athens has become too unaffordable, especially for more low-income residents who are struggling here in Athens-Clarke County. And I believe there's something we can do about it. So I want to run on a platform of bringing down housing costs for renters and homeowners alike, making childcare more accessible to more families, especially working class families, and reducing homelessness here in Athens. And I believe that I'm the person that's able to do it because I have experience within local government, being a county commissioner for 4 years. They got a lot of policies passed and actually worked on passing budgets, and also being on the school board currently. But also my background as a community organizer who's been doing community organizing here in the Athens area going back to 2011. So I have, I think, a vision for making Athens more affordable and more welcoming to all people, and also the experience to actually enact that vision.
Now we'll hear from Mara Zúñiga.
Sure. My name is Mara Zúñiga, and I'm originally from Nicaragua. I came to the United States back in 1972 to New York, Brooklyn, New York to be exact. And if we want to be more exact, Bushwick, New York. I've been living here in Athens since 2006, but I moved to Georgia in 2002. I'm running for mayor because originally when I came to Athens, my kids were in school, and it just seemed that they were having a little problem in school. You know, they weren't learning. And as I got more involved in the school, I realized there were more issues beyond what I was experiencing and my kids were experiencing. And that brought me to look more at the community issues that were going on. And I just saw a lot of problems, you know, so I started looking into how our community worked. And some things just didn't make sense to me. So the more I got involved, the more I wanted to participate. And there came a point where I wanted to actually make a difference.
Next, here's Sharon Miller on why she's running for mayor.
I've been a native of Athens for many years, raised my family here. I hailed from Alabama, Birmingham, suburb community Fairfield, which is in itself a college town. So I saw the model of what a college town concept should be. And I've always had a bivocational career track. My background is in many supervisory and regional managers positioned with the federal government, federal funding initiatives, working with Department of Juvenile Justice, youth empowerment, community organizer, community organizations. So my skill sets are coupled with that of being ordained clergy. And my why is of being in this mayoral race is that I wanted to take that level of leadership and skills to a higher level of public service and bring those skill sets to impact change for the citizens of Athens.
The same question to LaKeisha Gantt.
So my name is LaKeisha Gantt. I'm a native of Athens. I'm a licensed psychologist. So over the past, I'd probably say 15 to 20, maybe closer to 20 years, I've done a combination of like community mental health. I've worked at Advantage. I've done on-call work for people that were in mental health, having a mental health crisis. I've done case management work, and I've done work in schools. Athens is a unique place in that while we've had strong leaders, it tends to recreate the problems that we fight against. And I think part of that has to do with communities being overlooked, but the other part has to do with bold, genuine leadership. And I felt that now was the time that we needed that more than ever. County leadership is about being able to work with a governance team, but it is also about being able to empower that governance team with bold decisions and also empower that governance team to reflect more of the communities that are unheard.
Lastly, Dexter Fisher.
My name is Dexter Fisher. I'm currently the Commissioner of District 5. I'm also the Mayor Pro Tem. One of the reasons that I decided to run, and of course I started this journey 4 years ago when I ran for Commissioner for District 5. And I've been in public service most of my life. 30 years at UGA, 3 years with the Clarke County School District. And for me, the transition from being in public service and in the public sector and running for political office was sort of a good transition, I felt like. Having been in this community for 38 years, I saw some things that I felt I can bring to the table from a leadership perspective, from being able to work with people from all walks of life, having spent 30 years at UGA and working with people from all over the world. And I knew that I had a lot to give, a lot to present, and I really wanted to make sure that everybody in this community could play a role in the politics that goes on in this community. So for me, it was about trying to help, trying to maybe bring some hope to the community that some people may feel hopelessness. So I want to be the mayor that people can really depend on, that when I say something, I mean what I say.
Back to Tim Denson with the next question.
What issue is most important to you, and how do you plan to address or solve it?
Yeah, it would be the affordability. That's a problem that we're seeing across the entire state and the entire country. And I think the biggest way we're seeing that really impact residents is in housing, especially with seeing rents absolutely skyrocket over the last 5 years. Same thing with property assessments and therefore people's property taxes increasing drastically. So I believe we really need to take some steps to stop that increasing of housing costs, but also focusing on the other big expenses, like childcare is oftentimes the second largest expense for most families. So finding a way that we can make sure that working class families are able to get that childcare for their kids, but also opening up opportunities for the parents within getting employment or education and such too. We saw what happened whenever SNAP benefits were cut here in Athens, and how many families are still struggling just to make sure they have food in their kitchens for their kids and for themselves. So I think that's more steps that we need to take there too.
The same question to Mara Zúñiga.
The thing that I see, and you will see it as my number one in my platform, is the trust issue. I don't think we can pursue resolving problems that we have in the community if you don't have trust. People will always question your actions, and we see that from communities. Sometimes there are good solutions, and still communities will say, well, why are we doing it this way? Or where is that money coming from? And I've also asked those questions. But sometimes the explanations are different from different sides. And you kind of wonder, there is a lack of trust. And we won't be able to proceed with getting solutions until we regain that trust. And how do we regain that trust? I think there has to be better communication. Because when you do have that kind of dialogue, then you'll understand whether that person is wrong about something, and then you can educate them. Or they're right, which has happened to me, by the way. It will bring back the trust when people know where you're coming from, what your beliefs are, and you dialogue about a certain issue, and you have evidence in front of you. I mean, it's solid, so.
Next, here's Sharon Miller on what issue is most important to her and how she plans to address it.
Many issues are important to me, but if I had a choice in layering the priorities, I would say that in most of our forums, we've dealt with housing. There has to be a way to strategically help our homeless population and our unhoused population find housing, I would say, before this next winter season come through. I would like to examine what we already have that's serving this population it seems that we do not have enough service providers. I would like to consider the Advantage behavior model to see if there's a way that we could extend their support. I would like to look at partnership of what other mayors are doing in similar populace that we have around the country, around our region, around our state, to see how they have addressed their homeless state. There are many layers of homelessness. And so I would like to address it very aggressively, look at what we have, partner with others who can help me and my mayorship address this to reduce the number of homelessness on our streets.
Same question to LaKeisha Gantt.
A few things. I won't miss the opportunity to talk about the importance of housing. And while it's not directly related to policy, I think we have a wonderful opportunity to deepen our relationship with the University of Georgia by asking some of the tough questions and working together to begin to address our housing issues. Also, I do believe that there needs to be more flexibility around what we consider a residence for individuals. And so I would love to see us revisit some of the work that happened a few years back with tiny homes and just more creative ways that we can create communities that respect the landscape that we have and the space that we have, but also meet the need that we have in our community. I also would love to see us look at zoning a little bit more seriously so that people who do have the space to build and to extend residential opportunities, be it to family and friends, that they have the opportunity to do that.
Finally, we'll hear from Dexter Fisher.
The biggest thing is housing. Unfortunately, two things is not in our favor. We're the smallest land mass of 159 counties in the state of Georgia. So we have to deal with, first of all, where do we build at? That's the first. And then we need to make sure that we have infrastructure in place when it comes to sewer and water. Some of the places that we're looking at trying to build, we don't have the infrastructure in place. So to me, I always talk about smart growth and what that looks like. Now, we do own some land as the county government. I like to take a look at the land that we own, work with some private developers and see how can we build, and I don't like to use affordable, I like to use workforce housing. I think what we're missing here is what I call the missing middle. And when I think about school teachers, firefighters, public safety, people who work in plants, even some junior faculty members at UGA, how do we get that particular group in the housing? And that's what's really missing.
Now, the candidates share how they plan to make housing more affordable and accessible in Athens, starting with Tim Denson.
For one thing, we need to increase the housing supply. We do not have enough housing here in Athens-Clarke County, and we're seeing what happens whenever you don't have enough supply, but demand keeps increasing, costs increase. So one thing we just need to do is get out of our own way, have a better zoning code that's allowing more dense housing to be created, and have it where the housing can be created in a more affordable way, especially more affordable models such as cottage courts, triplexes, quadplexes, a lot of these different kind of things that oftentimes are a cheaper form of housing, but in many areas here in Athens-Clarke County, developers are banned from being able to create that kind of housing there. So we also need to be passing like a missing middle ordinance, so we're encouraging that kind of housing for being built in those areas too. Besides that part, that will take care of, the more of the market rate kind of problem that we're seeing, with just us creating more. We still have to help out those folks who are, just not making enough money to be able to get by. And for that, we're going to need to have more subsidized programs. And that's where I think the inclusionary housing ordinance that we've had in place, which has started finally creating units and started bringing in money into our affordable housing fund. That, I think, is a way that we can be creating more affordable housing units. And so I want to expand the inclusionary ordinances that we have. We were always intended to create 3 different ordinances. Whenever I was on the commission, we created the first one, got it passed, it's been working, but we have never revisited it and created those other 2. So one of the first things that I would do if I'm elected mayor would be to put back in place the inclusionary housing committee that we had before. The last part is where we need those folks who are really struggling, the people who are unhoused right now, the people who are not going to be able to afford quality housing without a deep subsidy. And that's where we're going to need to be creating actual social housing, that the government is going to have to step in and really have a deep subsidy that's going to bring down those costs. That's where we can be using the Affordable Housing Fund to be able to create more affordable housing units for those people who need, subsidies at like 50% area median income or even possibly below.
Now we'll hear from Maura Zúñiga.
I believe that the first and foremost problem that we need to address is keeping people in their homes first, because with rising costs and taxes going up, right? People who already own a home want to stay in their home. And that would go to housing affordability to begin with. To me, that's one of the most important things, because if not, people get evicted or people lose their homes to developers or people that are wanting to buy property at a very cheap price, and then they get into neighborhoods and then you gentrify, which brings the prices even higher. So it is a very complex problem. When you talk to a couple of construction people, they tell you, we can't do affordable housing because the price of the supplies are expensive and the price of the properties are high. So we can only, and there's a profit margin that construction people do. So what do we see? We see people with much more money coming in to do kind of developments, because the smaller businesses can't afford to do that. They just can't do it. So you have to open, the way that I see it, I wouldn't do it, but I see doors being open to bigger developers that come in with a lot of money, who don't know their neighborhood, the Athens, who could care less about Athens. They want to develop and they want to make money, and there's certain things that they're being asked to do that they can comply with that the smaller businesses can't. So it seems like a cycle. But I think that for me, it starts off by, if we are being able to be able to get people to stay in their homes, and those folk that own properties that live in Athens can be able to sustain their properties, bringing the taxes to a sustainable place, that has to do with rentals as well. Because if your taxes go up, guess whose rents go up? The people that rent from your properties. So for me, that's where it starts first. Beyond everything else, that's what we have to look at, is keeping people in their homes, making sure that taxes don't get outrageously crazy so that the rents don't go higher.
Same question to Sharon Miller.
There may be some things that need to be revised, that need to be updated, particularly our zoning laws. They have not been addressed in 30 years. I want to look at our zoning, and I want to bring to our commissioners' mindset the need to bring that. They have to be the one in the formation of the unified government. The commissioners are the one that has to make the votes. I, the mayor, put it on the agenda, and then we move through the layers of policy to make those things happen. So zoning has to be addressed so that we can find sensible, affordable, and attainable housing for our citizens. I want to address, it's hard, but I want to address it.
LaKeisha Gantt has specifically proposed a payment in lieu of taxes program with the University of Georgia to fund affordable housing. Now to Gantt to talk a little bit more about that.
Do you have any specific leverage or incentives that Athens-Clarke County would have to make that partnership happen, just because the university doesn't have to agree to it?
No.
How would you enforce that, basically?
So I don't think you can enforce it, but I do think that with many of the problems that we have to solve in Athens and that we're already working towards, it's not about enforcement, okay? But it is about having realistic conversations. And so part of it is communication. I would like our mayor and commission to formally ask. And to my knowledge, and again, because everything is not public, maybe they have formally asked as a governing body before. But I do think we need to formally ask. We need to intentionally cultivate those relationships. And then we also have to have backup plans, right? We can't just say this is going to fund and even fix even in the event that, UGA agrees to a pilot years from now, it doesn't fix everything. And so we need to be well positioned to work with developers on incentives to be able to meet the housing needs that we have here in Athens. And I think there's a great opportunity to do that with smaller developers.
What alternative funding sources, I guess, do you have in mind for affordable housing?
So part of the plan is already having RFPs and partnerships lined up so that as we get money, we're able to move forward with those projects. And so when I hear people say that, well, this particular project, I think with the core project, it was going to result in millions of dollars, and that we've already started to, build up our affordable housing fund. It can't just be building up. We need to already have those conversations and already have a plan ready to go, from land acquisition, because those things take time anyway, land acquisition, to the nonprofits that engage in that particular work, as well as the developers and perhaps smaller developers that are ready to partner with us to build affordable communities. They may not be large communities, but some amount of affordable communities in Athens.
Lastly, Dexter Fisher on how he plans to make housing more affordable for Athenians.
With developers coming, they want to be more and more student housing. In my personal opinion, I think we got enough student housing. I truly believe that. One of the things that I have mentioned, and I got some pushback, is doing a moratorium. And what the moratorium would do, and what I think it would do, is let's get the bed count. Let's count how many beds do we actually have in Athens-Clarke County. I don't think nobody knows. And again, my moratorium is not to stop development, not to stop housing, because we need housing. We need to stop. But let's take a look at what we got. And if we do have enough stuff, how do we get those individuals into housing, whether it's mixed use or in the single family? So I think that the conversation we got to have, to me, is how many beds we got and how many beds that we need. Now, there's been some studies out there that say we're going to need 8,000 more beds in the next 5 to 10 years in order to catch up. Probably gonna need more than that. As UGA continues to grow, and they're only gonna grow at 1%. However, we gotta look at the people that live here. To me, my priority would be the people that live and work in this community, who grew up in this community. Those are the individuals that we need to try to help find housing. That would be my first priority. Mm-hmm. And then we work with UGA. How many more dorms are you gonna build in the future? What's your housing stock gonna look like? And how can we partner together to make sure that there's enough student housing, especially on campus, and then work with developers? How can we get people that work in this community to get them housing? Anytime you talk about density, adding more housing, say if a developer got a project and he can build by right with that project, but then he want to add more density. A lot of times, what I've seen in the last 4 years, a lot of communities, they push back. They don't want more density. Whatever you build, let's build that, but don't add more density to my neighborhood. So we have to deal with that stuff. I think we have to do some education and let people know, hey, if we build more density in this particular community, it could possibly bring down the housing costs. Now, one of the things that I said, and people sort of push back with me on it, sometimes we may have to look at housing from a regional perspective. Overthorpe County, the land's not as expensive there. Madison, maybe even Jackson. Now, we would lose that tax base, but at the same time, if somebody can find a single-family home or multi-family home in those areas, can live there and still commute here. Because a lot of people do commute in from different areas to work here. That can maybe ease some of our housing, but I don't want to sound like I'm pushing people out. But again, I think everything should be on the table when we're trying to look at housing.
Back to Tim Denson with the final question.
Why should Athenians vote for you over the other candidates?
The big two things is that I have the experience to get things done. I ran for mayor in 2014 and had a very bold platform that included things like zero fare public transit, that included things like income-based property tax, homestead exemptions that keep low-income folks' property taxes down. That had an eviction prevention program put into it. And I was told that these things could never be done when I ran for mayor in 2014. And then you look forward we got those things done. It was hard, but I was tenacious at those things and worked on it and pushed through and was able to get commissioners who don't necessarily agree with all of my political ideas, but got them to vote for those things and got them passed. So I think right there that shows that I have a track record of getting these things, not only having that vision of making a better Athens that's especially a more affordable Athens that can help working class people, and again, be an Athens that is for everyone. But I actually have shown that I can actually get them done, not just that vision. And so I think that's the big thing. I don't see other candidates really presenting a very thought out kind of vision and policies that they're going to put in place that really help Athens. And I haven't necessarily seen the experience of the other candidates there that they can get those things done. And the thing is, we do need somebody who can right away. Whoever wins this race is going to take office in January of 2027. They're going to have to present their first budget to the county government on April of 2027. That's not a lot of time to be able to figure out how things work, to figure out how to write budgets. You're going to have to know how to do those things coming right in. And we don't have years to figure these things out to make Athens more affordable. We don't have years to put on to say, well, we'll figure out what we're going to do about homelessness in 2030. We have to be working these things now, and we need a mayor who can work on these things now. And I believe that's me.
The same question to Mara Zúñiga.
I've heard some Athenian candidates say, well, I was born here. I know more about, the inner workings of Athens, and because I was born here, I have a better perspective. I think sometimes on that argument, it could block your bird's eye perspective, because after how many years do you consider this your home, right? I've been in Athens for 20 years. My kids have gone through the school system. I've experienced those things. But I also have a different perspective. I've seen things from a larger city, and I think I bring ideas, and I also bring that experience that I see how things may not work because they didn't work in New York. I almost come from an unbiased kind of stance. I'm looking at just the situation. And I'm thinking, how do I help the situation? The other thing is, there are folk that also say she doesn't have the experience. But I do. I do have experience with budgets. I do have experience in banking, which, by the way, has a lot of federal laws and compliances that you have to abide by. I was assistant underwriter. I know what to look at when you look at financial papers. I've sat around with bankers. I have concept how it runs, the inner workings of that. It's very complicated. But even as an immigrant, when you come to another country and you don't know the culture, you don't know the language, and you end up learning about it and thriving in it, it pretty much tells you the experience and the qualifications that you build up to be able to thrive in a different country. My skill sets come from a business person, as an immigrant, as a woman, as a person that's bilingual. I deal with the Spanish community a lot. I can speak to the third largest voting population. I understand immigration. So there's a lot of things that I've encountered in my life, those challenges, and I think I've done pretty well, as far as overcoming those challenges and bringing solutions and thriving in them. So I do believe that when I come to Athens, I'm going, as mayor, I'm going to look at the problems. I'm going to tackle them from the stance of getting a solution for the majority of the people, and hopefully we'll thrive and go forward.
Now, we'll hear from Sharon Miller.
I want to say to the Athenians that I have confidence that I am a top-tier candidate who can lead our city, not just based on my background for federal processes and this whole model of what I did with the Carter Center. Now, I do remind you that that geographical area that I superintend as a regional coordinator was 3 cities, okay? So I'm not afraid of the populace of Athenians, but I want to be able to get in here and set policy, engage what we have, and be able to strategically and methodically and carefully take our city to new horizons. I would never do anything to put our city at risk. I would work cooperatively with our commissioners, and I hope that my leadership will give them the political strength that us and all of us together can make good decisions that build credibility for our residents. We've got to restore the credibility. I want to take that challenge on for our citizens. And for that, I think I am a better. I respect my comrades, but I believe that my platform, if you think through the process of it, it might reign as a top tier for their selection.
The same question to LaKeisha Gantt.
I think leaders need to be accessible. I think leaders need to work to understand the nuances that exist in our community. I've said this before, but Athens is like a creative place. It's a beautiful place. It is a left-leaning place, and we are still struggling with some of the same issues that we've struggled with for years. What that tells me is that we're missing something here. We've had it a variety of different ways as it relates to different perspectives on the mayor and commission. We had a far, far left-leaning commission, which did great work. And there was still work to be done, and there were still voices in communities that were forgotten. And so your mayor has to be someone who understands nuance, that when we have policies and perspectives, that it's still important to prioritize listening to individuals so that the changes we make can be as reflective as possible. I believe I'm that person. I've had to navigate a variety of different spaces, sometimes not by choice, but I know what it's like to be poor. I know what it's like to not necessarily want to walk, but have to walk. I know what it's like to grow up in a household where, your mom is working most of the time to have to catch rides with other people. I know what it's like to have to depend on community when the immediate family is doing the best that they can to take care of your needs. And quite frankly, having been here, and I think this is the case for many people, and particularly individuals of color, we still have family members, we still have community members, we still have neighbors that struggle. We still struggle in a variety of different areas. And you need a mayor, Athens needs a mayor that is not far removed from that struggle. And out of all of the candidates, I believe that I am the closest to that particular struggle. I believe that I have the skill set to listen, but also to be able to leverage a governance team to be able to move forward. And I believe that I am a bold leader. And those are the things that it will take to start to move the needle a little bit further. Not to solve all problems. And again, I don't think we need a perfect mayor, but I do think we need a mayor who can meet the needs of the time. And I believe that I'm that person.
Lastly, Dexter Fisher.
I bring leadership, I bring accountability, I bring transparency. I've done the work over the last 4 years. My colleagues voted for me as my second year on the commission as Mayor Pro Tem. Obviously, they saw the quality in me to help lead and work with them to get things done. I've done that. I tell people I don't apologize for any vote that I've taken on my last 4 years. Some of the things that I've done, I feel like have helped our community, especially when it comes to youth development. Our real-time crime center has been a game changer, I think, when it comes to dealing with crime in this community and some of the unfortunate things that have happened. But our officers did a great job in getting those individuals captured and arrested. So for me, we've done some good stuff. And let me say this, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. This is one of the greatest cities and the greatest towns in this country. There are great people in this community. I love Athens, and I had so many opportunities to leave, but I knew there was the place for me. So for me, I've done the work. I understand the assignment. I understand what needs to be done, and I know how to bring people and communities together. We didn't even talk about Town and Gal. how critical it is that we have a relationship with UGA in this community. I think that's critical. I'm the only candidate from day one to start having those conversations. How can we partner to ask UGA to help us to do things to make this community better? So from day one, and my first 100 days, we hitting the ground running. And I think I'm the only candidate, I know I'm the only candidate who can do that.
Thanks for watching. The election will take place on Tuesday, May 19th, with early voting open from next Monday, April 27th to Friday, May 15th. A runoff election will be held on June 16th if no candidate wins a majority vote.